upon a time, there were 4 leaders named Kevin, Peter, Cindy, and Nick who came together as a peer learning group. These leaders came from across the TCC Valley to go on what would be their biggest road trip of all time. Before the adventure started, they had to first understand what their destination was, the plan on how they would get there, their stops along the way, understand why they needed to do this trip, and most of all, what would get them there. They all brought with them their own set of values packed in their backpacks. They discussed what behaviors they expected and would not accept from each other on the journey. They also first agreed what they would start, stop, and continue on this journey. Cindy was going to start thinking of implementing strategies to deal with her high workload. Stop saying yes to everything and continue prioritizing her team's well-being and being available to them. Kevin was going to start prioritizing his time, stop worrying about minute details, and accepted that if he took action with integrity, then most things would end up okay. Peter was going to stop procrastinating on boring tasks, start focusing more on the overall purpose of projects, and continue building authentic relationships with people. Nick was going to start being courageous, curious, and begin self-regulating, to stop being below the line and turning a blind eye, and to continue listening. They each had a role to play. Kevin came up with a plan or strategy. Cindy led the destination or purpose and why they needed to achieve this. They all discussed what transport to take, the music they'd listen to, making sure they were all comfortable and that their transport was as smooth as possible. They agreed that Peter would be driving. They planned to make many stops and discoveries on the way. They were ready to jump in their culture car and filled out their trunk with their stakeholder map, Kanban board, 5 dysfunctions of a team book, plus the RASCI model. But Nick didn't agree that the Kanban board should go in the trunk. She wanted to bring the power of priorities model, so she set the scene for the conversation as to why she needed to raise her issue and why this is affecting them all. So she began by asking for the agreement to have the discussion. So Nick did her power pose and began her conversation, ready to listen and wanting for both of them to come to an agreement. They were ready to hit the road. They all jumped in the car and were on their way. They were enjoying the scenery, taking in the sights and sounds. They made many stops along the way to collectively celebrate how far they had gotten on their journey. They passed a chicken farm with 1 red barn and 1 green barn, which led to a discussion about toxic red zone environments that are competitive and hostile and where trust is lacking, versus green zone environments where people feel safe, are collaborative, and flourish. Then, suddenly, they saw an iceberg floating in the water. They took a moment to pause and wondered what this event was, how they should respond, and what the outcome might be. They decided to dive deep in the water to see if anything was under the surface, only to discover more of the iceberg hiding beneath the surface. They then spotted a boat with a team of people. They asked to collaborate with them on their adventure. Once on the boat, Kevin, Cindy, Peter, and Nick picked up the paddle and were rowing hard without taking a breath to try and get to their destination. They were turning this way and that way. Then suddenly they didn't know which way they were going. They also had left all their tools in the trunk. Some people weren't even rowing. There were also many holes in the boat. Some people even started jumping out of the boat. This made the peer learning group think, who was the leader of the boat? Who are these people? And are they even helping us get to our destination? As Kevin had the role of chief strategist, he soon realized that his eye for detail and militant style of discipline had gone out the window. It was chaos. It was time to take stock of the situation and reevaluate how they got here and where they were still on course. As his frantic paddling slowed, he thought to himself, sometimes, Kev, you need to be more assertive. Tell people what you want to say. People may not like it, but at least you're acting with integrity. People will appreciate that. Being a sensitive soul, he often found this a challenge and didn't want to create conflict. But here they were, a kilometer out in the Arctic waters. Unless Kevin acted right away, it wasn't going to end well. Don't delay, he told himself. Hey team, I think I've made a mistake here. I had a hunch a few hours ago that things were going astray, and now we're up a creek without a paddle, so to speak. Sorry team, I haven't been true to myself and I've let you down simply because I didn't speak up when I knew in my gut things were not heading in the right direction. I've got an idea how to get us back on track. I've got a bit of experience in navigation and outdoor education. Let's take 5 minutes for a chat so I can explain to you my plan and gauge your thoughts. The journey continued without a hitch. In summarizing what Kevin got out of the course, he noted the following. Uncomfortable situations are part of the journey. Embrace the privilege of having the challenge. It's hard to keep everyone happy. Not everyone will like your style, but seek an outcome with integrity at its core. Middle management is tough. Seek support from peers in similar roles. Continue to learn. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable takes you off the pedestal and fosters trust. Trust leads to so many good outcomes. Keep your ego in check. Listen, then speak. It's a privilege to be in a position where I can influence and mentor. Off the back of this, Peter then chimed in with what he got out of the course. He found that he could now be more comfortable with being the conductor and not playing the violin, and concern himself with leading rather than simply doing tasks. He found great value in analyzing his negative self-talk, the Pygmalion effect, and replacing these lies with positive truths. He has since restructured the way he conducts his team meetings and now finds it far more efficient to run them in a similar way to IT stand-ups. His team are enjoying this too. He's also dabbled with the ADCAR training course to further enhance his continued learning. Cindy has really enjoyed the Tukura Whanake journey and has learned a great deal from the experiences, learnings and tips from her fellow travellers and chief navigator Cheryl. She feels these new connections and relationships with people leaders from across the organisation will be very helpful to her going forward. Stepping up from being a technical expert on par with her colleagues to being a team leader has had its challenges. The course has taught her to change her mindset about the difference between allocating versus delegating work. She is more comfortable now about checking team capacity and allocating new work. This has helped with her own workload management and is enabling her to spend more of her time on leading the team, looking out for their well-being, ensuring they are engaged and supported, and taking steps to improve the legal services provided to the organisation. She will be continuing her leadership travels and has purchased her next guidebook, Brené Brown's Dare to Lead. Nicole summed it all up by saying that at the end of the day, we have enjoyed going through the journey together as a peer learning group. We have enjoyed finding like-minded people who experience the same situations and challenges. We can now use each other as sounding boards, especially at those times when leadership can seem lonely. Now we don't feel alone.